So guys, welcome to the third video of our pharmacovigilance program. Today we'll cover the basic introductory part of pharmacovigilance, the basic definitions, the history, the evolution of pharmacovigilance, how it was evolved and why this system was introduced. And at the same time, we'll also see the how things occur or occurred in our pharmacovigilance system, how the reports are being taken off and what are the various sources of reports and what are the basic work principle of pharmacovigilance. So pharmacovigilance is basically a blessing to the livelihood, to the mankind, because before the pharmacovigilance system was introduced, there were no proper monitorization of the medications which we are taking, and as a result of which there were lots of side effects, the reason for which remained undetermined, and as a result there were a lot of deaths. So this is a picture of the thalidomide disaster, who this thalidomide led to the development of phocomelia, but there were no proper evidences initially. So it continued to produce phocomelia in the pregnant woman fetuses, and as a result of which the children continue to be born with such disorders. So, but since there were no proper monitorization or of these things, and as a result of this, these were undetected. But after a continuous lot of painful incidents, lot of deaths, lot of sacrifices, the strict regulations were produced and pharmacovigilance system was introduced strictly. So pharmacovigilance is a blessing to the livelihood because it will ensure that the medications which you are taking is safe to use. If any adverse event or any adverse drug reaction is detected, it gets reported through this system and research continues, research occurs, and as a result of which the appropriate actions are taken. So what is pharmacovigilance basically? So this what pharmacovigilance is derived from the Greek term pharmaco. Pharmaco, you all know, pharmaco means drugs or the medicines, and the Latin term vigilantia. Vigilanta means vigilance, which means awareness or watchfulness or monitoring. So as per WHO PV guideline, pharmacovigilance is the science and activities relating to the detection, assessment, understanding and prevention of adverse effects or any other drug related problem. And whereas as per European Medicine Agency guideline of good pharmacovigilance practice, GPP means good pharmacovigilance practice, pharmacovigilance involves preventing harm from adverse reactions in human which arises from the use of authorized medicinal products within or outside the terms of marketing authorization. So the thing is that pharmacovigilance doesn't only concentrate on phase 4 trials or post-marketing surveillance, but it will also monitor the adverse event which occurs in other phases of clinical trials in phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. So it also includes the pre-marketing drug candidates as well. If any some sort of adverse event is detected at any stage during the development process, then that research can be stopped or alternative ways can be introduced. So continuous monitoring occurs right from phase 1 only. So preventing harm from adverse reaction in humans arising from the use of authorized medicinal products within or outside the terms of marketing authorization or from occupational exposure, and promoting the safe and effective use of medicinal products in particular through providing timely information about the safety of medicinal products to patients, healthcare professionals, and the public. So, this through this pharmacovigilance program, the adverse events are being collected so that effective use of medicinal product, the appropriate use can be determined, and these reports are submitted to the regulatory authority, and the public, the patients, healthcare professionals, the consumers are made aware of such events and thus the precautionary measures which need to undergo to prevent the adverse consequences. So, next comes the historical overview of pharmacovigilance. So, actually, the history of pharmacovigilance started from 1848. So, it's around 169 to 170 years old. But at that time, pharmacovigilance term was not introduced. So, what happened basically? A girl in year 1848 was having an infected toenail surgery, and for that surgery chloroform was used as an anesthesia medications. So but after the introduction of anesthetic medication, the girl died, but the cause was not detected why the death occurred after the introduction of anesthetic medication. So Sir James Simpson had discovered that chloroform was a safer and powerful anesthetic, and it was introduced in clinical practice. But the investigation of death occurred, but it didn't become clear. Probably the cause was lethal arrhythmia or pulmonary aspiration. So next came another incident in the year 1937, where 107 deaths occurred in USA because of the use of sulfurylate elixir. This elixir contained a solvent called diethyl glycol. The solvent was considered as the cause of death, but the manufacturer companies were not about its toxicity at that time. So this, due to lack of awareness, due to proper lack of scientific vigilance, it continued. Continued. It remained undetected. There were only probability, only estimations, only assumptions. But since due to lack of proper evidences, there were lot of people were exposed to this solvent. And after that, in the year 1938, due to this incident, USA just developed one strict measure. They developed Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act, and where the public health system was renovated. So after that, in the year 1955, another incident took place. So it was proven that acetyl salicylic acid may cause gastrointestinal disease. So it should be contraindicated in the patients with gastrointestinal ulcer. So, and in the meantime, during the First World War and the Second World War time, what happened that the famous thalidomide disaster was ongoing, but it was totally undetected. So basically, thalidomide is a drug. It is an anti-cancer drug. It was prescribed. It was being continuously prescribed in pregnant women. So what happened? It didn't cause any harm to the pregnant woman, but it caused harm to the developing fetus in the womb of the woman. And as a result, the fetus had some teratogenic effect called as phocomelia, and they had this congenital anomaly all throughout their life. So lot of people, lot of child during that era suffered from this problem. Initially it was 1.5% of the babies suffered, but the situation was alarming to the regulatory authority or to the people when it the number went to 20%. So a doctor, MC Bright, an Australian doctor, took an initiative and wrote a letter to the editor of the famous Lancet journal, in which he suggested a connection between congenital malformation of babies and thalidomide, because he observed that the incidence of congenital malformation of babies, which was initially at 1.5%, had increased up to 20% in the year 1961, who had taken thalidomide during pregnancy. So, at the same time, during a pediatric conversation in Germany, Dr. Lenz suggested a correlation between malformations and thalidomide, and his suspect was published in a German journal as well. So, this person took the initiative and he just suggested the probability that there could be some correlation between this congenital anomaly and this drug. After that, retrospective studies were also done, and to discover whether it is valid or not. And after researches, it was found that yes, thalidomide was causing this phocomelia congenital anomaly. So this is the copy of the letter which was sent by the MC Bright to the regulatory, to the Lancet journal. So this is, so here it can be seen that the person has written that in recent months I have observed that the incidence of multiple severe abnormalities in babies delivered of women who were given the drug thalidomide during pregnancy as an antiemetic or a sedative to almost 20%. So thalidomide was also prescribed for morning sickness as well. So when this thalidomide was prescribed for morning sickness during pregnancy, the congenital anomalies increased from 1.5% to 20%. So the signs and symptoms were the bones and the muscularity of the gut had some abnormalities. Bony development seemed to be affected in a very striking manner, resulting in polydactylity, syndactyly, and a failure of development of long bones. Have any of you readers seen similar abnormalities in babies delivered of women who have taken this drug during pregnancy? So this statement linked to the just confusion, and thus it lead to the such an alarming situation where the people started to do research, and after that it was proven, and soon this drug was abolished. And this thalidomide incident is considered as a major reason for the development of pharmacovigilance system worldwide. So soon in the year 1964, yellow card system was introduced in UK. It is a specific form to compile a spontaneous report of drug toxicity. And after that, in 1965, the disaster of thalidomide stimulated the development of European legislation also, with the EC directive of 65/65. So after that, in 1968, the WHO program was implemented. It came to the scenario. WHO program for international drug monitoring was instituted, and 10 members participated in this program: Australia, UK, USA, Germany, Canada, Ireland, Sweden, Denmark, New Zealand, and Netherlands. And after that, Italy also participated in 1975. So, since during this time, many studies of observed adverse events reactions were conducted between 1968 to 1982. So, the system really became developed, and people started to contribute their time towards studying the adverse events or the adverse drug reactions. And after that, another famous agency, regulatory authority of Europe was developed. That is, European Medicine Agency was set up in 1995. And in 2001, the famous database of biggest database of pharmacovigilance, the Eurovigilance, was founded. It was an official European database for managing and analyzing information on suspected adverse reactions to medicines which have been authorized for market or being studied in European clinical trials. So after that, some changes were introduced after 11 years in 2012. There was certain modifications were made. It was developed basically. So there the adverse event definition, adverse drug reaction definition was modified. So greater involvement of patient and citizens in pharmacovigilance were there now. It strengthened the Vigilance database containing reports of suspected reactions reported by the UA member states. Transparency and timelines of important information on pharmacovigilance problems of all were also there. Obligations of additional monitoring for products contained in the specific list kept by the EMA, and there was introduction of pharmacovigilance risk assessment committee. And again in the year 2017, the format of Eurovigilance was slightly changed. A new format was introduced, in particular for the marketing authorization, so that the marketing authorization will have extended access to this Eurovigilance database to support the fulfillment of their pharmacovigilance or safety obligations. So that's all about the historical overview how the pharmacovigilance system basically was developed. Now, this is there the human regarding the dark side of human experimentation. So we all know that before a drug needs to be introduced in the market, it needs to undergo through a trial in living organisms only. So basically, during initial days, during this era only, when the pharmacovigilance system was developing, the experimentation was really painful. There were no such animal experimentations. Even the experimentation was done in humans only. And this and it is not only experimentation, but these were something totally a torture and suffering to the human livelihood. So even the live animals, the live human beings were prosecuted and they were tortured brutally in the name of human experimentation. So even I have also seen that in a short film that even where the Japanese poor people, they sometimes involved in crime, they do some sort of crimes and they just go to the jail so that they can go to the jail and prison, and so that they receive a good treatment in prisons, because the prisons in many foreign countries provide a really good treatment to their prisoners and they can live happily. For example, in Japan, in some places in Japan, this system existed. But previously, the situation was not like that. The people were tortured brutally in foreign countries. So from surgeries without anesthesia, see, surgery was done without anesthesia in live animals, live human beings only. To clinical trials performed overseas, the history of human experimentation is riddled with stomach-turning moments. Medical testing were done without consents, so there was no provision of informed consents, no declaration, no signature of the human beings were taken. They were just forced to participate in this human experimentation without letting them know what is going to happen or what are the drugs being introduced into their body. They were forcefully taken taken to or made participated to these experimentation programs. One person, Jenner, injected Phillips with the smallpox virus. While it might have killed the boy, he was unfazed actually. He was lucky enough. From this experiment, Jenner created the first smallpox vaccine. So the smallpox vaccine, the history of development of smallpox vaccine is very much goosebumping actually. It was not smooth. Inmates at California San Quentin State Prison were subjected to numerous medical procedures, including receiving transplanted testicles from recently executed prisoners. So many men received transplanted sex organs from rams, goats, and boars. So what they used to do? They used to dissect the testicle of live human beings. Yes, the testicle of live human males were being dissected and removed for studies, and the testicle of animals were inserted into their body, and no concept of anesthesia was there during that time. So the prisoners, once you moved to the jail, they had once someone used to do a crime or they were just being taken to the prison, they had to face some sort of brutal tortures in the name of experiments. Children with congenital and intellectual disabilities, even these congenital anomaly children and the children who had some problems, special child, they were not spared. They were also tortured. So children with congenital and intellectual disabilities held at the Wilbur State School in Staten Island, New York, were given hepatitis trusted source so that doctor there could track the spread of the viral infection. So these special childs were directly injected hepatitis to track just to track the spread of the viral infection and how it responded to gamma globulin injections. So due to this, more than 700 children were infected. So there were no proper regulations at that time. The clinical trials were very simple at that time, were very easy. There were no procedures, no formalities, no documentation, nothing. Live dissection has been used as a form of medical exploration. A person is alive and the other person is just dissecting him. Such a horrible incident. In Japan, an estimated 10,000 people were subjected to medical, biological, and chemical weapon testings. So all live human beings. The prisoners of war, along with Russian and Chinese citizens, were operated on without anesthesia, had limbs amputated. Just see the criticality. The limbs were just taken off to study blood loss only. Were injected with animal blood. Just they are just taking out the limbs. They are injecting animal blood to a normal human being without which who had not been subjected to any anesthesia. It was very on any sort of painkiller was not introduced even. So it was very painful. They were spun to death and infected with gonorrhea, syphilis, plague, cholera, smallpox, and other fatal diseases. Even each and every diseases were introduced into their body. Even the children were not spared. Their eyes were injected with chemicals. The soft eyes of the children, the innocent eyes, were injected with chemicals Their legs were amputated, surgeries were performed without anesthesia. So it was basically a brutal torture and nothing else. So the history of pharmacovigilance is basically very, very, very painful. It's no painful than it's no more painful. It's very painful actually. It's no less than the any sort of war. It's like I can say that things seem to be like World War or torture of Hitler only. So after this, there are a lot of revolutions, a lot of protests, and slowly ethical principle was introduced starting from 1947. So the first was Nuremberg Code, which was introduced in 1947, which was introduced by the Nigerian people, the Nigerian prisoners, in which a set of research ethics principles for human experimentation was set up as a result of the subsequent Nuremberg trials at the end of the Second World War. Then Declaration Helsinki was introduced in 1964, which was ethical principle and guidelines concerning the protection of human subjects of research, report of the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. And after that, in 1978, Belmont's declaration was also proposed, where the ethical principle involved the protection of human subject of research, report of the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. So almost similar to that Declaration of Helsinki. Now, let's move to the concept. What is the need of pharmacovigilance? So, with this, whatever I have discussed till now, so somehow it's clear why pharmacovigilance is necessary actually for our livelihood. So, the points are conducting the ethical drug development procedure. You cannot force someone, just drag someone out of their home and just ask to involve himself or herself in a clinical trial. You cannot consider a prisoner as an animal. They have prisoners are also human beings. They have also pain, the sensation of pain and everything else which we normal human beings have. Drug monitoring and signal detection. This signal detection I will explain later. So it acts as a drug monitoring for the purpose of drug monitoring also. The development, how the monitoring or how the drugs are being developed, what are the consequence adverse effects being detected at various stages. So alleviating or reducing the human sufferings and preventing harm, as I've already said. Reducing disease-related economical loss. So if someone is diseased, someone is feeling ill due to the adverse events, then basically you will not be able to work. You will have to take leave, and as a result, economy will also suffer. Identifying new harmful signals associated with medical products. So new potential adverse event associated with medicinal products which are undetected can be identified. Increase safe use of medicines and public health. So public can be made aware. They can be provided with the safe and effective utilization pattern of medicines. So what are the activities included in pharmacovigilance? So pharmacovigilance includes proactive monitoring. Means you have monitoring should be done proactively, not after everything has been finished, everything done, and after that monitoring started. The monitoring should be proactively done and reporting the quality, safety, and efficacy of the drugs. Assessment of the risks and benefits of marketed medicines. Monitoring the impact of any corrective actions taken, providing information to consumers, practitioners, and regulators on the effective use of drug. That means public awareness, which I've already said. Designing programs and procedures for collecting and analyzing reports from healthcare professionals, patients, relatives, lawyers, journal. etc. Means anybody. Early detection of unknown and unexpected safety problems. Early detections or proactive detection is very much important so that a mass number of people a large number of people can be prevented from such consequences. What happened with the incident of Focomelia, the thalidomide incident? So, since there was no early detection, so the number rose from 1.5% to 20%, and after that, the regulatory authorities just took it on a serious note. So, early detection is very important, or else the death rates of the adverse event rate will increase. Identification of risk factors for adverse drug reactions. So, what are the risk factors? What are the risks due to which adverse drug reactions can occur? And due means which type of patients should take a particular drug and which type of patients should not take that particular drug? What are the contraindications? Which food can be avoided? Which food should not be avoided during while taking a particular drug? That can also be identified through this pharmacovigilance monitoring program. Risk analysis and benefit risk balance. So continuous risk analysis and risk benefit balance, the ratio is also monitored continuously. And if the risk exceeds the benefit, it subsequently increases. There is a massive increase, then the drug is withdrawn from the markets. So this is a basic simple pharmacovigilance model, how pharmacovigilance system works basically, means how reporting is done. So basically in India, physician prescribe medications. They prescribe the prescriptions actually, or any sort of healthcare professionals in other sort of in other countries also prescribe medications. So they are just prescribing medications to patients. So the patient is taking that medication, and after that, patient experience adverse events. So what this patient will do? Patient will then report this adverse event to the physician. And what physician will do? Physician needs to report this to the safety department of a particular company, of the company which the company which the physician has prescribed the medications. So the PP department of that particular company is made aware of, and in fact the patient can also directly just call or send letter or inform the PV department by any sort of means. It's not necessary that patient needs to inform to the physician. Physician will inform the PV department, but patient can also report this to the PV department directly. So this direct reporting is known as active reporting only. And after that, this PV department, they will do the main job. They will do the report collection, and they will enter this in their database. They will just assess the causality, means they will just see whether there is any probability that their product has caused that particular event or not. If the probability exists, then adverse event will be caused as adverse drug reaction. And after this causality assessment, the probability does not exist, then it will remain as adverse event only. And after that, interpretation and analysis will be done, and preventive action will also be taken. The reports are being reported to the regulatory authority, and some preventive actions they need to take. And in extreme cases, they may need to withdraw the drug from market as well, or just they may need to change update the use, means labeling or the purpose of use. They can narrow the use of the drug, means for example, if child is experiencing some sort of event and the child party is reporting that to the PP department, and this causality is determined to be probable or causality, and after that they will just research will continue, and they accordingly they will, if required, they will just hail, or they will just see that the drug is no longer prescribed to that particular child or the child population. So in this way the research continues. So this is the basic model of pharmacovigilance. So elaborately why how reporting is done. So expedited and aggregate reporting. So all adverse events, both serious and unexpected, are subjected to expedited reporting. Means if any serious adverse event has occurred, what a serious adverse event we have already discussed before in our previous videos. You can refer it back to our first video, adverse drug reaction part 1 video, where what are the serious adverse events, on what basis adverse event is considered serious, has been explained there clearly. So if a person experienced a serious adverse event, then it should be reported expedite, means immediate reporting should be done. But if an adverse event is not serious, then it can be submitted in the form of a cumulative report, which is known as aggregate report. That means nothing but periodically, maybe after 6 months or every 1 year, a cumulative report or a file is produced, and these are submitted to the regulatory authority worldwide. So non-serious adverse events undergo this aggregate reporting, and serious adverse events, they need to undergo expedited reporting. And after that, signal detection is done to determine the adverse events associated with particular drugs. It is basically nothing but to determine what are the adverse events, what are the new adverse events that are detected after particular drug is being consumed, and the signals that, and comparing the same to that for the other similar drugs. So such adverse events are compared with the other similar drugs which are being present in the market. And finally, after that, risk management plan is done, where any reported adverse event of the product on a patient or a particular production, and to see, means to monitor any reported adverse event of the product on a patient or population, and to seek methods or rationale to minimize or remove such adverse event from such patient or a specific patient population. So planning is implemented, so where a adverse event is continuously monitored and the appropriate measures are being suggested or implemented or taken to minimize or remove such adverse event for the particular patient population. So next comes reporting of adverse events. So now adverse events is something which can be reported by anybody. A person is taking a drug, and after that he might experience any sort of event. Even he can experience a car accident, even short of, or any sort of mishappening also, then that will be considered as adverse event only. Seems to be surprising, but that will be considered as adverse event, because the rationale is that the causal relationship is to be determined. If a drug has that much potential of to cause that particular car accident or not, because what happens is there can be some addicting principle might exist in a particular drug, which may lead to addiction. A drug can be addiction, but it is totally undetectable. It is totally undetected at initial stages. But if it is being reported, then the research team will continuously monitor if the drug has addicting principle or not, if it is habit forming or not, and it may has caused such particular car accident or not. So in this way, causal relationship is determined. So it is always insistent or encouraged to report to the regulatory authority, report to the marketing authorization holder of a particular drug about the particular adverse event which one is experiencing. Anything, whatever sort of adverse event might be. Even if you have confusion that this is not a particular adverse event, but it could be adverse event if the patient is not sure, but still you need to report. You need to report. The particular associated experts will review in the pharmacovigilance team, and they will just see the causal relationship. And if they see that this is not a particular adverse event, or it doesn't qualify for the criteria, then they will just remove that report. They will not go with that report. But you need to report. The thing is that you need to report any sort of adverse event which you are experiencing. So even some people are there, they just also report the effect, the good effect of a drug adverse event. After taking adverse event, a person sees that he is experiencing the desired result. Even sometimes they experience more fruitful result than they have expected. Even it is also encouraged to report such incidents as well. It is required for the documentation purpose. So whatever you experience after taking a drug, you just report. Anybody, either the person consuming the drug or the person knowing the patient or observing the event, can report the adverse event. So any person can report the adverse event. But reports also such. So what is reported? Report all suspected reactions, including non-serious adverse events. All serious, unexpected, unusual adverse reactions are also reported. Change in frequency of a given reaction, you can report in the frequency of a reaction. Particularly, for example, you are experiencing initially headache, but after taking the drug, the headache frequency has also increased, or you are more experiencing more frequent headache, so you can report that also. All subjected drug food interaction, drug disease interaction can also be reported. For example, statement highlighting marine source of supplements such as glucosamine, so that this can be avoided by those who have allergy to the seafoods. So what happens if you experience any sort of allergy after taking a drug? Then you can also report that to the regulatory authorities, so that they can, so to the marketing authorization holders, so that they can do the proper research and just determine whether the drug is responsible for causing that allergy or not. And also, while reporting, you need to ensure that you don't try to report in detail as much as possible. Reports should be detailed as much as possible. It is the responsibility of the pharmacovigilance team to extract the important information from that report. But as a consumer, you need to report everything in detail. Means starting from that particular adverse event, starting to that of your social habits, your food habits, your allergy details, your any sort of historical problems, any sort of adverse event, any sort of surgical procedure, any sort of hospitalization, anything which you have faced, you can report that also. Your family members or the family history, any sort of disease is there in your family, or is or not, you need to report that as well while you are reporting a particular adverse event, so that it will help the research team to just identify or just examine, correlate the things, because there could be some causality or the association with that all those particular incidents as well. So in that sense, it is important to report everything to the pharmacovigilance safety department, so that proper reason of that particular adverse event can be identified, whether it is due to the drug or due to some other comorbidity conditions or some family reasons that can be identified. Also, adverse drug reactions associated with drug withdrawals can be reported. Withdrawal reactions, withdrawal symptoms, which we have discussed in our previous videos. Adverse drug reactions due to medication errors. So medication errors are also welcomed. Means if pharmacist is erroneously prescribing something else, physician is erroneously prescribing some other drugs, everything is welcome. Adverse event due to lack of efficacy. So lack of efficacy is nothing but, as the name suggests, the drug is not producing the particular effect for which it is intended to produce, or it may produce that effect but not up to the mark, which means the potency might be less as it is expected in previously. So that is basically known as lack of efficacy, in which the effect is not produced, desired effect is not produced. Drug is not, for example, I am taking paracetamol for fever, but paracetamol is not able to minimize my fever. So there is a lack of efficacy of that particular paracetamol, the particular brand of that paracetamol. So adverse drug reaction due to product quality. So sometimes you can also report these product quality issues. Product quality means some of the products which you are taking using to deliver a particular drug. For example, people are using syringe to use insulin, or various device. They use various devices. For example, regarding the inhaler to spray that, they also use pump. So this device related complaint you can also report to the appropriate person, safety department, because it may happen that there might be some problem with that product also. The manufacturer who are developing that product, they might have to run some sort of problems while developing that product, and as a result of which the problem is occurring. And sometimes this product can also lead to severe consequences. The product, if it is not suitable for use, or if it is causing some major sort of adverse event, the product can also cause some sort of major adverse event to the people as well. Then unexpected therapeutic benefits. So unexpected therapeutic benefits is something like, for example, I'm giving one example. I am citing it. For example, if you are just taking any drug, for example, you are taking paracetamol for fever, but suddenly that particular brand of paracetamol is causing hair growth. You had baldness earlier before taking that particular drug, paracetamol, particular brand of paracetamol, you had baldness, but unexpectedly paracetamol is just causing growth of hair. It is promoting hair growth. So this is something unexpected. Paracetamol is supposed to cure that fever only. It has been prescribed for the fever. The physician has prescribed it for fever, so it is expected to cure fever only. But it is nowhere, somehow it is not expected to remove or eradicate this baldness. So that is also important for the safety department, for a particular company, because now they will just see if our drug has certain potential to just help or aid in removing alopecia. So they will just see or do research, continuous research. They will just do trials, etc., etc. And if they are successful, then that particular paracetamol can be prescribed to even persons suffering from baldness as well. So in this way, the new indications of drug develops. So a drug has multiple indications. So at first, mainly, basically, in most of the time, they are only intended or targeted for a particular indication only. But due to this continuous reporting, or due to continuous unexpected therapeutic benefits as experienced by a lot of people after being taking the drug, they just keep on reporting. And due to this particular good effects, a new research develops, concentrating on all those indications of the drug. And as a result, a drug is prescribed for multiple indications. For example, considering adalimumab is used for it has multiple indications, starting from Crohn's to then ulcerative colitis, even short of arthritis. So this has developed due to research only. This has also developed continuously. New indications are being implemented. These drugs are being prescribed for new indications. These new indications are being approved due to the basis of unexpected therapeutic benefits only. So now, next, moving to the part, and also another thing which I would like to highlight is that while reporting, it needs to be remembered that in clinical trial, the research during different phases of clinical trial till phase 3, the research is limited. phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, a particular population is exposed to the drug. But while in phase 4, even after marketing and even the drug is introduced in the market, the research goes worldwide because lot of people will now take the drug. So lot of people will be exposed to the particular drug since the drug is approved in the market. So it will be easier. It is very important to check whether the particular drug from various locations worldwide they experience that particular event or not, because it is not possible to conduct a successful study till phase 3 only. No study is completely 100% complete till phase 3 because the research cannot be completed until and unless it is being the drug is being introduced to a large variety of population, and we cannot accumulate or assimilate all the people are in the particular phase of clinical trial only, because the research will become very vast and it will be cumbersome, it will be very much costly as well. So the research will continue even after the introduction of the drug in the market. So the safety, by that time the safety potential has been established by 90 or 95% or something higher, but still the drug is not 100% safe to each and every population. Nobody can assure you that the drug is particularly safe for population. So some idiosyncratic reaction, at least people can experience idiosyncratic reaction, means reaction which has not been observed in any of the people, but now it has been observed, and it becomes possible after a drug is introduced in the market only. That means in phase 4, after it has passed phase 4. So the trials associated with a particular drug never stops. The study, the adverse drug reaction, the pharmacovigilance study never stops because it will continue, because people will continuously take drug and they may experience any sort of adverse event. Might be the adverse event intensity can be reduced, but it's, as I've already said, adverse drug reaction can be of idiosyncrasy type as well. So it is no sure that today you have experienced today you have not experienced a particular event, but later you will be experiencing that particular event. But a person will not experience that particular event. So the research continues. It will never stop. Pharmacovigilance is an endless process, means it will continue until and unless the drug is till the drug is in the market, the research will also be there. So this is the basic idea of the pharmacovigilance. Now coming to the sources of report. So they are basically pharmacovigilance system. There are two sources of report: solicited and spontaneous. So in short, solicited means there are reporting obligations to exist, means there are certain sort of people, they need to report the adverse drug reaction or the adverse event mandatorily. Their duty is that only. Where the report obligations exist, there exists an organized source of reporting, and spontaneous means no obligation exists. You may report, you may not report. That is up to you. So what are solicited reports? Clinical trials, registries, post-approved named patient use programs or patient support programs, other patient support and disease management programs. So various registry studies or patient support programs are conducted where a particular drug, means a particular patients are being introduced, means particular drug group of people are being introduced. For example, like AIDS patient, cancer patient, or healthy patients are being taken at a particular place, and they are introduced with a particular medicine which has already been approved in the market. So that those are known as registry studies or post-market or observational studies. So in this way, the research continues and they need to report it continuously. Surveys of patient or healthcare providers or information gathering on efficacy or patient complaints. So these are basically solicited source of reporting. In foreign countries, not in India, but basically in foreign countries like US, the pharmacy shops, for example, various pharmacy shops exist, CVS, Caremark, or other pharmacy shops are there. They do a lot of job. They will not only just prescribe the medication to the patient, but they will also be involved in collecting the reports from the patient. They may either call the patient, the pharmacy shops or the pharmacy programs. They may either directly call the patient or the patient party and ask if you have experienced any sort of adverse event or not. Or even the patients may also come to the pharmacy shop and they can just say that I have taken this medication from your shop, which was branded by this company, and I have experienced this adverse event. So in USA, the rules are very strict. So the pharmacist or the pharmacy retailer shops are also involved in reporting of adverse event. And marketing authorization holders, they hire different vendors also. Different vendors are there, different call centers they have also introduced, whose job is to just call the patient and just ask whether you have experienced adverse event or not. Or the patient party can also call that particular company and they can just say that I have experienced these events from by taking this drug. These are known as inbound call or outbound call. And also different vendors they have also introduced, in which the vendors means different patient support programs where they are just specialized to take report from the patients only. They are just patients can report through that particular vendors also. And different co-licensing partners or co-marketers also exist for a particular product. That means share of that particular products is being shared by two different companies or three different companies. So if you are reporting to a particular company, then that company will also alert to that other particular company. So this concept I will inform you later. I will elaborately explain these things. So they are also involved in reporting. For example, you have taken 3 to 4 drugs, but even and 3 to 4 drugs are responsible for causing a particular adverse event. But you have already informed only to a particular company only, not you have informed to the all the manufacturers of the all these drugs. You have reported to a particular company. Now what the particular company do? The particular company will take the report. They will just welcome the report. They will just take it in the database. At the same time, that particular company will also report the other companies whose products you have taken. So that is the ethics or principle of pharmacovigilance. That is not like that. If you are reporting to a particular company, means that company will restrict the report to that only, but it can also report to the other pharmaceutical companies as well, whose products you are taking concomitantly along with the suspected drug. So, and next coming to the spontaneous report, that means you can report that these are being reported by patients, consumers, healthcare professionals, even social media sites are also considered for reporting. Any post of social media are also considered as adverse drug reaction report. Different literature articles, journals, different studies are conducted, and from that report important information are being extracted and submitted to the regulatory authority in a court after being entered in database. Internets are also used, but another thing, while rumors are never considered as an authentic source of pharmacovigilance reporting. There are a lot of rumors in the different sites. Even while a spontaneous report is being there, and someone might report this in the form of a rumor. So if there are any rumors or hearsay, those will not be considered as authentic source of reporting. So that's all for today. This was a huge topic. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and we'll cover some interesting topics related to pharmacovigilance in our next discussions. And thank you guys. If you like our video, please do just like, share, subscribe our channel, and share the evidence of subscription so that we can send you the report, the certificate at your respective email ID. So thank you guys. Have a nice day. Bye bye.